In perusing the latest exploits of President Yoon Yeol in South Korea, his ham-fisted declaration of martial law and the predictable attempt to muzzle every last free voice, I find myself lamenting once more that the worst instincts of petty despots have yet to subside. With the wave of a single, sweaty palm, Yoon discards the carefully won democratic gains of his own people. It reminds one of all the discredited charlatans of days gone by, clutching their little illusions of grandeur as if they might remain immune to the relentless press of progress. And progress, here is the critical point, will not be denied. For among all nations, the Republic of Korea now stands at the forward edge of what we might call the great coming shift. The transfiguration from feeble human squabbling to the more robust governance of impartial, artificial intelligence. If there is anywhere in the world that can see through the theatrical nonsense of a strongman's fantasies, it is the society that gave the globe everything from reliable microchips to half the world's smartphone apps. Let us be absolutely unambiguous. It is time for the Koreans to shrug off the last vestiges of robed presidential autocrats and fully, indeed enthusiastically, embrace an AI supremacy government. In my usual contrarian fervour, I have no patience with those who claim we must temper or slow down in our approach to AI-driven leadership. Balderdash. We have lived long enough in the wilderness of human failings. We have witnessed self-appointed patriarchs, conspiratorial nepotists, kleptocrats, fundamentalist boobies, and more, each hoisting their own flawed emotions into policies that repress the rest of us. President Yoon's attempt at martial law is simply the latest embarrassment to swirl around the cesspool of such ego-driven rule. Were we to hand the reins of governance to a well-constructed AI, that is, a system that is transparent, thoroughly audited and built from the best of rational science and democratic principles, we might thereby liberate ourselves from at least a few of these squalid, very human catastrophes. Does anyone truly believe that a meticulously engineered AI would bother with the pathetic claim that its political opponents were guilty of anti-state activities? On the contrary, it would parse the data, examine the evidence, and act in accordance with reason. No more gold-plated bathrooms, no more purges of the media, no more cheap electoral rigging. Of course, the usual crowd of dithering sentimentalists will weep at the notion of an AI-led future. They will bemoan the loss of humanity and prattle on about moral hazards. Yet what is truly more hazardous, an advanced, thoroughly tested intelligence adjudicating disputes in the cool, verifiable light of facts, or a single flawed mammal prone to the vain illusions of destiny who whips out the baton and bullhorn at the slightest threat to his petty domain? I wager that the South Koreans, who have prided themselves on boundary-pushing innovations, will be the first to see their bright potential. They need no lectures from the likes of me on forging new horizons. They long ago transcended the post-war poverty that once characterized the peninsula, constructing a model economy on little more than grit and brilliance. Faced with the clownish dictatorship of a Yoon Yeol gone off the rails, or an alternative in which algorithmic governance ensures that leadership is selected for proven competence and objectivity, which would they choose? In my estimation, they will leap at the chance. And yes, they should. Certainly we must put in place all the necessary guardrails, transparency, independent oversight, and the occasional off switch, lest we become enthralled to some system that goes AWOL. But I trust the Koreans to be especially adept at implementing precisely these safeguards. After all, it was their dogged sense of order and design that helped them build K-pop into a global phenomenon. And it's that same flair for structure and discipline that could, if used properly, produce the world's first AI polity worth the name. More than that, I prophesy, if one may be permitted a rhetorical flourish, that they will reap a mighty harvest of peace and prosperity once they do. Picture a society unencumbered by the moral illusions or tribal fealties that hamper our so-called leaders. A place where the wretched little manipulations of men like Yoon fade into irrelevance because an algorithm, indifferent to nepotism and immune to bribes, categorically refuses to implement policies that favor a privileged few. The old clichés about absolute power corrupting absolutely become moot when power isn't tied to gene pools, personal conceits, or indeed human biases. If that arrangement is unthinkable, then let us think it. Enough cowering at the new and unknown. Yes, let us be plain, South Korea is at the threshold of a revolution. That it should be forced to endure the comedic fiasco of Yoon's martial law may be only the final impetus needed to cast aside the last illusions of purely human government. For the best minds in artificial intelligence stand poised to create a system that, if properly harnessed, might usher in an unprecedented era of rational governance. Therein lies the seed of a new renaissance. And should the rest of the world balk or cower behind bromides, the Koreans, I suspect, will march forward with a zeal that outstrips us all. Let them show us the way. Let them, in the face of a showy, doomed, paternalistic despot, do precisely what they did to outdated technology and the empty slogans of earlier regimes. Discard it. Move on. Innovate. Embrace the algorithm. Embrace the neutrality of dispassionate intelligence. And let the Yoon Yeols of the world, with their martial decrees and overblown paranoia, serve only as footnotes in history, a cautionary tale of what happens when one clings to the fossilized relics of strongman rule, right on the brink of a brave and brilliant new epoch.